Healing crystals, skincare routines, knitting a sweater, fitting in jeans. With Katie and Sarah, no need to worry, you're on a lady journey.
Hi everyone, welcome. It's so amazing to be here.
It is, and looking forward to it. Like, I have to tell you, because I did the special last night and Katie came.
Yes.
And it's done.
Oh my gosh.
It's done, and now I can focus on Lady Journey.
Yes.
And nesting.
It was a weight off. It went so well. Your special taping went so well. Thank God I got there so late. I was like, if I have to stand, I'm gonna lose my shit. I hate standing at shows.
Oh, if you wanted to hang out in the green room, I would have totally been like, you can just hang out in there and look at your phone. Oh my gosh.
No.
Taking a nap.
That's so kind of you. That's so kind of you. No, I got the perfect seat. I was all the way in the back in the corner. They added a chair for me and I was just sitting there in the dark on the side and I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. It was a dream and it went so well.
I was the audience response was great. I love how they participated on the pickups.
Oh my gosh, that's the thing about I think shooting a special. You're like, oh, you don't need to do 2 shows.
No, because the last time I did 2 shows, the first one was great, and then the second one, you're like, all right, I guess this is an open mic.
Yes, and we're ending on a low point. 1 show. Get it all out. It is what it is.
And then there was a few lines that were unclear when to get into the joke. Within doing the pickup, you're like, how inauthentic to be. So, have you guys been watching?
Yeah, but you were so funny. You have a quality about you, which I think some comedians have this quality very strongly, and some comedians just don't have it at all. And I think it's so valuable. But like, you're actually a funny person. If you take away, like you strip away everything, you're like a bit of a character. And so you brought that fun and funny kind of like, interesting energy to the stage where you're like, well, this is weird. You know? And it's like to have an awareness of it and be like, well, we're kind of acting right now.
Like everyone is acting. To get the audience acting, like some of them had to do like, okay, not too much laughter here because it's not.
Well, the audience was not taking direction that well because there was a point where we were supposed to laugh into an applause break because there were many applause breaks, but it wasn't that like it was, like a couple people starting it and then it wouldn't catch on until later and it was weird and taking too long. Yeah. But so people were just going straight into the applause break and I was like, no. We had to do it again. I was like, ha, 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 ha. And then, starting the clap. So I will say that it was clear some of us had training.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Like Katie's been on Succession.
Yes. Thank you. It's my credit.
Well, it is just funny because when you're doing that, you're like, I was laughing to be like, what if I just ate it?
Yes, that was hysterical.
Every joke never landed, and I'm like, okay, time to act, audience.
Yeah, you guys are a part of the special. We're all acting.
But now I'm looking forward to, which will probably lead into our topic.
Yeah.
Of soft living.
Soft living. And you're at a point where like, I mean, when I saw you on stage last night, I was like,
it's big.
You have gotten so pregnant even since I saw you last week.
He's estimated to be at 8 pounds, 12 ounces.
Wow. I mean, it's
which
wild.
Is insane.
He's in there right now.
He's like curved. His head's down here and then his spine goes here and then his feet go all the way over here.
That's a big baby.
It's almost where you're like, can he just come out now?
Yeah. Like, what's he doing in there for 2 weeks? He's just hanging out like a deadbeat roommate. You're like, you're paid to the first, son. You need to move.
It's time to go. That's how I feel like he's cooked. I feel like if they make a certain weight class, they should just come out.
Right? Like 6 pounds.
Yeah. They're good to go.
You're gonna push out a 9-pound baby?
Get out of here.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can't wait for you though. I'm really excited about, kind of your journey of like slowing down and prioritizing the baby. I think it's and I can't wait to come over and see and hold the baby. I will take a turn holding him, although infants are terrifying when they're like so tiny. You're like, they're like, oh, support his neck. You're like, I'm trying. It's like, I'm supporting it too much.
Just snapping off and falling off.
Yeah.
The whole time you're like, oh no.
I'm so sorry. Something happened.
I've always been that way with other people. Like, I've never been a person that's like, I like holding babies, but I don't want to hold other people's babies because I don't know what the comfort level is. And I also love to smother.
Yes.
And I'm not going to smother someone else's kid.
I know. You're
If
like
they don't
holding
like
it like, is this okay? When you want to like put your face on the baby.
Well, we've hung out with friends that like go and pick up someone they just met's kid.
And be like putting their face, kissing the baby. You're like, you don't know them.
And they don't know you, and you're like, that is such odd behavior.
Yeah, just a little mouth kiss for the baby. That's how people get cold sores. You get them when you're babies from other people like kissing on you.
Especially comics.
Yeah.
Cold sore
I know.
heaven.
Do not leave your baby around a comic. That's all I have to say.
Well, like I just think
either they'll be molested or they'll be molested by the comic telling them their shitty act. Like,
yes.
Hey baby, I have a joke. Your baby's like, no, that was wrong.
Yeah, or your baby's just getting roasted and you're like, well, he's not ready for this.
Yeah, don't do act outs to him. He doesn't like it.
So just nervous. I used to get nervous about, I think, because I'll get to smother my own kids. So I get to
that's gonna be
establish
the best.
my own weird boundaries.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Or do you think you're going to sleep with him in the bed?
That one always makes me nervous, but we're going to have a little bassinet next to the
That's good.
bed.
Yeah, you can hold his hand.
Yeah. Just touch his stomach to make sure he's breathing. Because I think that's like the thing you get worried about. Like every moment you're like, is he alive? Like you think they're just dying the whole time.
Yeah, that's scary. But we don't have to think about that now.
No. And then I also worry about like, how tight do you swaddle the baby?
I think you're supposed to swaddle them really tight.
I know, but isn't that like I would have a panic attack if somebody swaddled me that
It's like
tight
a straight
right now.
jacket.
It
Yeah.
is. They can't move. So
Yeah.
these are the things that I don't know anything about, and I'm not researching.
Yeah.
it.
Well, we'll be looking to TikTok for answers. Well, I want to do the stone dedication.
Oh,
and
yeah.
because I got a new phone and erased everything, I have a great iPhone 15.
and
which
it's pink.
It's pink. I could not wait for them to get the at Verizon, so I went to Best Buy where they fucked me, as I knew they would. But
a
they had all the
different vibe
iPhones. The vibe there is why? Why are you asking a question?
It's quiet. Have you ever noticed that? Like, or maybe in outside of New York, the Best Buys are quiet. They used to be
Could hear a pin
slammed.
drop.
Yeah.
Could hear a pin drop. Yeah, because the service has just been so consistently bad that like
Yeah.
no one's going in there expecting help or respect.
Yeah. How can you know so much about 20 million products in your
Right.
department?
Mine was, I just kept getting like 1,000 more charges on there. I'm like, but why is it $75? They're like, oh, that's not supposed to be there. I'm like, oh, okay, so is it on me?
Yeah.
To just go
And
through
all this stuff.
It's crazy.
No, I kind of go through my bank account once a month, and every now and then I'm like, wait, I have a subscription to this. Like, when
Yeah.
did that
I
happen?
don't know what's going on in my life. Well, can I tell you? I have no idea. Can I tell you what? This is so mortifying and also very lady journey. So what happened was I made a new code for my phone, for my new phone, and then I went to my old phone to enter the old code. And I could not remember my code. And I even keep doing it. Like when I get out my phone, I'll just do it absentmindedly.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I just did
Muscle.
it. But what was it?
Yes.
I don't consciously know what the code is. I know subconsciously the pattern with my thumb, but I have no idea what the numbers are. So I did the code on my iPhone wrong so many times that it got locked out to the point that I had to reset it. I lost every photo from the past 5 years. Aruba, Mike's 50th birthday, my family. It's all gone. Everything's gone. And also now, like, I don't have any presets set on here. I don't remember the code for any of my other apps, like my Starbucks app. Like, why would I know the code for that?
I know. Especially, there's so many codes I have to keep track of them, and I got a little notebook.
That's what I need to do. Yeah.
Specifically for codes, but now they do Face ID on the phone. So I can get into my bank account on my phone, but I cannot tell you how to do it on the computer.
No, it's the Face ID. It fucked us.
Yeah.
It completely fucked us in the face. But I want to start out with the stone dedications. Now, let me just make a PSA because we, as you may know, we are going on a maternity leave for Lady Journey. So if after this point, if you have signed up for our Patreon, we will be doing a stone dedication, but we won't be doing it for a couple weeks because we're backlogging stuff. So please be patient with us. We love you and we want to get to your stuff.
You will not be ignored.
We will never withhold information from you.
Full transparency.
Yes, 100%.
When we did get new subscribers,
we got a couple new.
We got bumped.
What's that?
Well, meaning like when I was doing our expenses for the month to pay out.
Yes.
I was like, oh, somebody got a $4 raise.
Yes. I know. I was feeling great about that. I was like, cup of coffee. So thank you so much for all you do and the money that you give us. Dollar by dollar.
It's so funny. You're like, oh, $20 more. But when you average it out and then divide it and then expenses, you're like, oh, I just averaged Lex gets $4 more this month.
Congratulations. I know. It does feel like you're kind of like begging on the side of the road. Like, anyone have a penny? A penny will help. 1 penny will help. And it does. But this stone, I'm so excited. I actually have been meaning to debut this. This is one of my favorite pieces from my private collection.
Ooh.
It's actually a fossil. So it is technically a stone because it is surrounded in calcite. But this is a blastoid. It's called a blastoid. And I got this when I was in Australia with my grandmother at a night art fair. And
at night.
At night,
I've never been to a night art fair.
Oh my gosh, it was right on the beach. We could see the sea. We had souvlaki together.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
It was delightful. And this was my souvenir from that trip. So this is so cool because it's a fossil that it's no younger than at least 250 million years old.
Okay.
How crazy is that?
And it's in your apartment.
Yeah, it's like you're holding it in your hand. This is going to be around for another 250 million years. Like, this can't be destroyed.
I can't get over with like fossils. Like, it's just a creature from like 250 million years ago, and then it's on a podcast.
Yeah. Your moment has come. It's like Joe Biden in a way, where it's like, now you're old.
You're like, all that hard work paid off.
It did. You finally made it. I like this too because it makes me feel so young. I'm like, oh my God, late 30s, 40s around the corner. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
We got an old biddy in here. But this blastoid is going to Nancy. Nancy, thank you so much for joining the Patreon. So a blastoid, actually, because it is so old and rare, although I did find one for $65 on Amazon, I was like, should I take this on Antiques Roadshow?
Yeah.
But you can buy it. Yeah. This is an antique from 250 million years ago.
They're like, ma'am, that's a nut from the bottom of your purse.
Ma'am, that's a nut.
It's an old hazelnut.
It's an old hazelnut. So, Nancy, to you,
blastoid.
The blastoid, it actually does have its own unique magical properties, which are peace, well-being, fueling growth, creativity, and optimism about life. Oh, behold the blastoid. So, Nancy, get out there. Things are looking up, okay?
Hey, I gotta touch this. I love the name, the blastoid.
I know. It feels so official. Like, have you seen my blastoid? Has anyone seen my blastoid?
Where's my lucky blastoid?
And then our next guest that we've had, we're so grateful that you joined the Patreon. This is for Caitlin. Caitlin, I've got my quartz generator crystal for you. How gorgeous is this? It's huge. A crystal like this, I think we may have talked about this. Like, this can be a great psychological tool if you want to ground yourself in your life. Like, touching something like this has a proven benefit to bring you into the present moment if you're like spinning out in your mind or you're afraid of something.
I feel like it's a good purse rock.
It's perfect purse rock. And now this is a purse rock. This is a purse rock. This is a nut. Okay.
This is gonna branding.
This, you know what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. If your friend puts your hand in there, she's like, okay, Caitlin's on a journey. We get it. Now this quartz crystal attracts positivity and it helps clear the mind. So I wanted
that makes sense because it's clear.
It's clear. I wanted to do like a theme today of optimism because that's what I'm working on bringing into my life with my soft living.
Yes. Sometimes you don't, I'm talking general you,
Yes,
not like
yeah.
this is your intervention. Sometimes you don't realize how negative you are, Katie.
No, and it is true. Well, I feel like I've been complaining to my partner around the apartment lately. I've been putting a lot of energy, negative energy, in terms of like, I'm worried, I'm scared, I'm anxious. And it's like not good for the relationship.
It is, but then you're like, where do I put that?
Where do I put
and
it?
I want to put it on their shoulders.
I want to put everything on him and have him cater
he
to me.
works out. He can handle it.
He can handle it. He should cater to me. But I was thinking like, I'm overworking. I'm overdoing it with myself. That's my pattern here, right? Like I'm always like overworking, overdoing it. But it's because that's an area of comfort for me.
Yeah.
It's in my comfort zone.
I also feel like we come from the era, I feel like in the 80s of the no pain, no gain.
Yes, like it's the hustle culture mentality. And once you get stuck in that hustle culture, it's like now we're doing a series of like micro shifts to like try to move ourselves towards like not working to the brink of exhaustion.
Yeah, like I am a big procrastinator, but over the time, especially with bigger projects, I feel like I've gotten better about like doing it 2 months out.
Yes.
And planning.
Yeah.
Planning is a new thing to me.
Planning. Oh my God, I love it.
Like when the backdrop that I can't stop mentioning about.
Yes.
Prouder
your
than
special.
anything.
The backdrop, and I say, it was stunning.
It popped.
It popped, and it also had a cohesiveness with the space, your outfit, and the tone of the material.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you would have arrived at that if you had not been planning it for 2 months.
Yeah, because usually it's just like show up, do your jokes, and you're like, I just want it to be me. And this time around, you're like, I think it'd be more fun to create it as a project.
Yeah.
But it was, the mindset is like, I did start it, or within 2 months out, wrote a to-do list of everything I needed to do. And then any time that I was able to sit down here and work, I would do it. I had 3 to-do lists going on. So I would do, anytime I couldn't do anything from the other to-do list, I would do something from this one. And so over 2 months, I just did a little bit every day, and it was less overwhelming.
That's so great.
And you do have this mindset of like, is it a good project if it caused me no anguish?
Yes. I know. There was no point that I was wanting to jump off a bridge. So did I even do anything?
Yeah. And there was no moment, like especially like making the backdrop, like I gave myself enough time to, if it didn't work out, I could do a backup plan.
That's great.
Yeah. And where in the past it would be hours before that I'm gluing stuff.
Yeah.
And it's wet and moist and, like humid or something.
It's falling apart.
Yeah,
You're in a panic. But you almost
I'm taking it personally.
Yeah. You're
as an attack
why
from the
is God
universe.
doing this? If only I was prettier, this would have never happened to me. That's where my mind always goes. But I think that because we were kind of involved, people in our generations, like we were involved in this hustle culture for so long that you get into what is actually comfortable for you is existing in this state of stress.
Yeah.
So even if you're like, oh, well, I'll plan a little bit, and you like doing that, you end up not sticking to it sometimes. Or I'm not saying you, but like I end up not sticking to it sometimes because it feels like, oh, well, nothing's even happening, and it kind of feels uncomfortable to have it drawn out in like working in 5-minute increments over a period of 2 months.
Yeah, you're like, I don't see results.
Yeah. I don't see results because I'm not stressed out, and now I'm feeling calm, but because it's uncomfortable to me, it's now terror.
Yes. But I think that also, I feel like that came with age.
Yeah.
I'm a huge procrastinator.
Yeah.
And I had to accept, my therapist was like, you just have to accept that's who you are. Like, you're not going to study your set list.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to memorize it by muscle memory by doing it more.
You have to work around your tendencies.
Yes, your weaknesses. And that was one. So I feel like only now in my 40s, I've realized what I need to do that works for my kind of personality trait.
We're all still growing.
But soft living is, I think that's like the new trend of like, I think also as you get older, you realize that sometimes ambition doesn't make you happy.
Right. Yeah.
It's then when you reach those goals, like you're like, now what? That you're
You
like,
just
it's
have
not
another
that
goal
important.
immediately.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
I feel like once you hit a certain age, you're like, there is nothing wrong with just like, what if I just want to be at work in a florist or a flower shop?
Or your power washer. Yeah. Power washing in Tampa. Throwback, if you know, you know. Well, I think there's a lot of evidence too that like we all think like, okay, once I get to this certain, if you're like an ambitious person, you're caught up in the hustle culture. You think like once I get to a certain level, then things will click into place for me and I'll be able to relax. But because of the way your mind works, and I've done that, like I've gotten to the level where I was like, oh, I'll be able to relax. But that's actually an illusion because of the way your mind works. And when you're addicted to living in chaos and struggle, and you're always struggling towards something, you won't be able to relax just because you've hit a certain achievement, because relaxing again is not in your zone of comfort.
Oh, yeah. And also, like, even in the higher level, so you have the same problems, but they're even really bigger. Like, we have friends that, that are doing like Madison Square Garden. I was stressing out to sell tickets for 50.
Yeah.
They have to do like 20,000 or something ridiculous, or 50,000, that you're just like, I can't handle that. I cannot handle that.
Running a little light. Get your tickets now. Yeah. Well, I think too, like we have, because of the hustle culture, the myth of hustle culture is that like if you kind of grind yourself down to the point that you're only working, you're not seeing your friends, you're just completing like a list of tasks over and over, which is addictive because you're like really living on these endorphins. If you keep doing that, then you'll get somewhere. You'll actually be able to achieve the goals. But it's like you can also actually achieve and move towards the direction of your goals when you're not living in a state of stress all the time.
Yeah, it just maybe takes you a little longer to get there. And then also, like, I don't think extreme amount of success is for everybody. Like, I'm talking for myself, like the idea of like me trying to be selling out Madison Square Garden is just diarrhea inducing.
Yeah.
Meaning like, there's times when I would be at the stand and couldn't get the side pocket to shut the fuck up.
Right.
And you're like, that's a room of 100. Can you, how do you, at that point, like, am I really connecting with an audience of like 50,000?
Right. And
that's not what I like.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
want us to hang out.
Right. You get caught up into this, like other people telling you what the most important thing is, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like Madison Square Garden, like that's it. And it's like, oh, I guess now I'm running towards this.
Yes.
But that may not even be the most important thing for me because I'm completely out of touch with myself because I'm always like at like 20%, killing myself running around.
Well, it's like, I don't need to have a holiday home in the Hamptons.
Yeah. Well, I do. And I'm shopping for one. Well, I do think, because I've been watching, like, of course, the soft trend is on TikTok, and I've seen like a lot of people talking about like their own personal goals. Like, okay, I made this shift away from hard living and I've actually become more successful because I'm not feeling depleted energetically. I'm not feeling like, like I think an example of hard living, like one girl gave, she was like going to HIIT classes 5 days a week and just killing herself to get out the door and get to the gym. And then she when she made the conscious shift, she shifted over to Pilates. And now she's like, I'm in better shape. I've lost weight.
Yeah.
Which, not necessarily always the goal, but like, she's like, I move my body every day because I love doing Pilates and it feels like a fun thing for me.
Yes. Because I've been in that same state where I did enjoy running 5 days a week, but then I got massive plantar fasciitis, which really hurt, and then sciatic, and then you're like, this is too much. And then honestly, I felt like I was seeing now the same results by doing the 3-mile walk.
Yeah.
And then maybe light weightlifting and some stretching.
Yeah. See, isn't that what it's all about? Like, just not killing yourself for nothing.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, the hustle culture. Like hustle culture, maybe it can work for you to get you ahead for like 5 years. But I think maybe if you do that beyond, then it just becomes actively detrimental to you. Or it's like you show up at a show. Like I had times where I would be like working, writing, show up at my show exhausted.
You just go into, I call it AutoZone.
Yeah. In the zone, auto zone. Yeah.
Where you're like, I just know this from muscle memory.
Yeah, just plowing through my set, and I don't care because I'm so tired. And meanwhile,
just want to go home.
Yeah, you're just like so ground down that you're not like doing well. You're kind of just doing mediocre in your entire life because you never allow yourself to have that rest.
Yeah, where, sometimes maybe with the soft living, maybe with stand up, you're like, okay, I can only do maybe 4 of the local mics, like Grove. Because I'm just thinking for myself after the baby that you're like, I bet you I could overturn more material that way than when I am excited to get big paid spots at the comedy clubs on the weekend, but I end up doing the same 20 for the last 6 months.
Yes, you have to think, and that's what they say, that moms actually, when you become a mom, you get this innate ability to like prioritize your life well. And they're like, if you want to see somebody that's working efficiently, like look to a mom, because they're like, I have 45 minutes, I have to get 8 things done, and I will do it.
Well, that's what I was telling Joe, like, not that the reason to have a baby is to help me get up early in the morning.
You're like, well, I cannot sleep in. Someone's life is at risk.
I will go to jail. But I'm like, I can totally see this benefiting me better than my life beforehand.
Than running around. Yeah. Well, so as you know, I've been obsessed with this book. This book is changing my life. The Mountain Is You. It's all about, I've been talking about this for several weeks now, but it's all about zeroing in on the like mechanisms in your brain that cause self-sabotage and getting out of your comfort zone to try to realign yourself into like a more healthier state. And the author talks about a big thing to do is like, really, you're never going to have this moment, which we're all like waiting and hoping for. You're like, I need a breakthrough. I just need a big breakthrough. Like, or, after New Year's, there's always that pressure of like, I got to turn my life around.
I mean, going to the mics or the gym right the first day after New Year's
it's the most depressing thing. It's like everyone's just like, we're like, today's the day that I fix everything. But she's like, you'll never be able to do that because your mind doesn't work in that way. And it's actually very difficult for you to change because you have to have this adjustment to a different comfort zone, and you can actually really like upset yourself. You'll get like adjustment shock by being like, okay, starting today, I'm only eating my exact diet and nothing else. It's like then by the end of the 3rd day, you're like, I'm in a prison.
Yeah. Well, it's never worked out, and I feel like it's very similar of like anyone that's dealing with kind of like addiction issues being like, I think it's just a better mindset to just be like, let's see how tomorrow goes. Like, I can just try not to drink for tomorrow.
Yes. Focus
rather than like, I give myself a year, and if my life doesn't improve,
it's over.
Because you're like, the sad part when you quit drinking, your life sometimes doesn't improve.
Right.
And then you're in for like a huge downfall, which creates a bigger relapse, or you're in a worse position than you were before.
Yeah, you're like, I suck.
Well, the universe wants me to drink because it's killed everyone in my life.
Yeah. Well, so her big thing is that you're supposed to focus on like micro shifts, right?
Okay.
Like if you want to be like a healthier person, you don't, or like if you want to eat better, for example, let's start with that. Like very simple. Like you should never start out a day being like, okay, which is what I'm doing. I'm like, I will only eat healthy today. And then, by the 5th day, you're like burnt out.
Yes.
You should just do a micro shift. Just focus on incorporating one micro shift a day of like, I'm going to have extra vegetables at dinner.
I need some greens.
Having greens at dinner. Like that's as easy as it needs to be. And I think like when we try to change our lives, we get caught up in this. It's the hustle culture mentality again of like, everything needs to be perfect starting now. And if it's not, then, then you're setting yourself up for this massive failure. And then you can engage in all of your fun self-defeating behaviors.
Well, yeah, that's like when you do a diet and then you start off great during the day, and then the last minute you break and eat like a tub of ice cream, and you're like, well, shit, if I didn't have the diet, I would have done this ice cream probably earlier.
Yeah.
And I would have burned off some of the calories instead of it being the last thing I eat before bed.
Yeah, have the ice cream. Have the ice cream. Just have an
Vegetables.
do one thing. Do one thing. So I'm trying to like micro shift my life away from living in a chronic state of stress. And that's, that was really what this whole podcast was about for me, of like going on this journey. Now I'm creating a story where I'm like, I've been on a secret journey. I've been on a secret journey this whole time.
Didn't want to tell you guys.
I've never mentioned it. But one of the reasons I was so intrigued to do this podcast is because we do focus on like homemaking and like lifestyle and living in a way that's like both authentic and not, but then we monetized it. So now it's become something, it's become its own monster. But I'm trying to do like some micro shifts for me into softer living. Like one thing I did start doing therapy. So that was a micro shift of being like, okay, once a week, I'm just going to do this for a little while.
Yes. Well, that's another thing of like sometimes like the focusing on one thing allows everything else to fall into place.
Yeah. Focusing on one thing too, just being like, okay, for right now, it's just me making sure I go to the therapy once a month. Oh my God. That's it. It's not really working. Once a week.
For a tune-up.
Yeah. Like once a week at the same time. And then it's like, once you get that down, then you're like, okay, like what's my next shift?
Yeah. Well, that was like a big part even in sobriety of like your only thing you have to worry about is just like staying sober. Mm-hmm. But then it wasn't until one day, it was like several months later that I understood, instead of like, it wasn't like I was getting promotions or like moving up the ladder of comedy or anything, but I was able to do a million things in one day. Mm-hmm. That I feel like that is part of like the soft living of you just like, if you're just focusing on one thing, inadvertently, you will do more than one thing.
Yeah.
Like they say that if you're having a hard time initiating running, just go for a walk.
Yes. Micro shift it into it.
Yeah. If like, I always try nowadays, instead of doing a to-do list where I have to do all of it.
Yeah.
I just choose my number one thing this is what I'm only doing, and anything else after that is bonus.
I love that. That's something I'm struggling with too.
Yeah.
I would make to-do lists and then I'm like, granted I do have a lot to do, but it's like you get in this a kind of mental state where it's like you're just adding stuff to the to-do list, and then before you know it, you're kind of run down and you can't really think and prioritize. Then you're just adding more stuff that has no you're like, and I need to organize my socks. Like I went through my phone and organized all my photos into photo albums, and then now I don't even have any of those anymore. So where was that 6 hours? And that was something I did on a to-do list. But yeah, I saw another thing on TikTok that was like, just pick 3 things. Pick 3 things the night before, like create a bedtime ritual where like you're like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this, this, and this, and stick to it and set boundaries.
Yeah.
And also like give yourself the permission. Like I noticed I was really tired last week and I was like, I think I may need to just lay down until I'm not tired.
Yeah, go take a nap.
Take a nap. Like,
well, that's like the thing. What is it? If you're hungry,
hangry, horny.
What is the one? I've seen this a lot too. If you think the world hates you, eat or something like that.
Yes.
If you're mad at everybody, sleep.
Yeah.
I'm probably getting it wrong.
And if you hate yourself, then you need to do, I forget what that one was. I like we're dispensing. We have bits of info. We don't have the whole story.
Just look it up.
Look it up. It's a thing.
And I do believe it, because that is another thing, you think about, like, you want to write that email.
Yeah.
And then you're like, maybe if I just took a nap.
Go to bed, bitch.
Go to bed, bitch.
Because I
forgot about go to bed, bitch.
Oh my God. We will have merch one day.
Yeah, one day.
I have a thing where like I will go on a vacation or something and then I come back and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so much better. I feel so much better. And then I just immediately start running myself into the ground again by doing all the work. But then I realize like I'm hoping, and I think maybe soft living, maybe if you are in a competitive or an intense industry, maybe it's not something you can sustain over a long period of time, but maybe having when you get more downtime, I'm having a season of softer living. That you're like, I need to take time for myself so I can just feel relaxed and okay all the time and not exhausted every day, and then just kind of operating on that and wondering why nothing's really ever working out.
Yeah.
Not that that's the case, but you know, you get in like a bad, like when I was, did I tell you about my breakdown that I had when I was in Colorado?
No.
Oh, well, I had one. But it was just like day after day of like, you know, going on the road, going to a different place, being in the car, like you just get so run down. And then on top of that, like the mountain air was brutal.
And you got to deal with people.
Yeah, like after the show, like chatting at, oh, hi, are you unstable and about to project it on me? You know, like, of course, usually people are very nice, but even doing like any type of meet and greet after the show, which I always do because I think it's good for the venue. It's nice. It's so draining. You know, and then also like dealing with other comics that you don't know. Like I was in a festival where I was just meeting a ton of people. And by the last day that I was in Denver, I was just having a full on breakdown because I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Well, I would get in those moments because I feel like if I hit that ground running like that, then this should really help my career.
Right. And then like you're coming to the end of it and you're like, I think I made $400.
And realize that it wasn't, nothing's happened. Nobody noticed. And then you just find out from your peers that they're just like, sleep till 2, watch TV, show up to the gig.
Yeah, meanwhile I'm like writing. I'm like, I gotta crank out a new bit. Today's my day.
But they're just like kind of like jerking off on stage and killing it. And then you're like, oh, I should just kind of have more fun rather than the idea of like hitting the pavement.
Right. And I think it's like a woman thing too, because as women, we're like sent this message that like work harder, like your value is in like how hard you work and like what you can do. But at a certain point, like I realized to myself, like despite the fact that I was in a challenging setting, you know, like with like car driving is very exhausting because you're like your body's like going back and forth and whatever. Like if I had been in the mindset that like if I don't take care of myself properly during this trip, I will probably have a breakdown that's going to continue into my next trip.
Yes.
That's going to continue into when I come back and have a ton of shit to do. If I had been like, okay, like where can I build some time in here that I'm going to rest myself instead of just assuming that like I'm like, everything's fine. Everything's going to be fine. And then the breakdown is like looming and I never see it. You know, I'm like, oh, that's weird. I guess I can't stop crying. I'm fine. And then just like pushing it down further.
Well, it's just like, I did a little run a few years ago and it was just one of those things where you're like, this is not worth it.
Not worth it.
This is not bringing me to the next level. Yeah. And you just realize like you don't have to do that. And then also what's weird, like especially in corporate world, even when you work hard, you're rewarded with more work. Why the person that is just soft living over there,
they're having a great time. They're having a great time.
And they're getting paid the same.
Yeah, bare minimum.
Without the work. Because I remember that with my friend who's he's dating a therapist, and I was complaining about like this guy that I worked with at the property management place. And she's like, why don't you just do what he does? And I'm like, it was so revolutionary to me.
Yeah,
because
you can
like,
literally do the bare minimum and you can get away with it. And you can also like so I read this article that was like it was like kind of a post hustle culture era realization that we're all having is that like you, of course, like we were saying, you think that if you hustle you're going to achieve and that's going to make you happy and that's why you're hustling. But
it's like a drug in a way.
It's like a drug in a way, but they found that like actually happiness and what supports you
projecting it,
like supports you being able to like thrive in your work life is sleep, rest, and connection with other people.
It probably falls in line, even though sometimes I'd never fully believed it, but in the law of attraction.
Yes, it's like if you are feeling good and you're like emoting like a good, healthy, happy energy, then you are going to, people are going to be like, hey, she seems together.
Yeah.
Versus like you're like harebrained, like crying,
Yes,
running into your spot like a psycho, running into work like, I'm sorry, I'm so busy. It's like people are like, whoa, Deborah,
Yeah.
too much.
Or just being like when you get to your spot and you just have negative energy, like this. Oh, great, 7 people here, and it took me 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's like,
on
oh,
the
you should have
G.
canceled. You don't need to do that. Just cancel it.
And as a person that has run a show, I'd rather be like, if you just don't want to be here and I'm feeling that, I'd rather you not be here because you're ruining my mojo.
Yeah. You have to, taking care of yourself is so important. And also like prioritizing friendship, I think. Like we think like, oh, being friends with people is a luxury, but it's actually it's called social fitness.
Yes.
And I didn't even ever actually realize that. And I feel like I've neglected friendships in my life because thinking like this isn't going to help me get ahead because I should stay home and be like cranking out and doing my work or whatever, like getting to my job.
Or like creating fear into my friends, being like, I have to stay home, I have to write. And then they're like, should I be writing?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm like actually taking this seriously.
And then in reality, I'm just scrolling on my phone for hours.
Crying, isolating yourself.
I maybe just tweeted once. But like, I do, because I remember having that a lot, especially like in the mid years of New York when you started working a lot more. There'd be times like every night I was going out, especially like Friday, Saturday night, I would just walk by girls having dinner with their friends and being like, what's that like?
What is that like? Restaurant culture. Eating at a restaurant at night is my greatest pleasure.
Even on a weekend, like it feels so nice. And I feel like you end up maybe writing more that way than like staying at home trying to, I say sometimes when you try to force art, you shart.
And you do. And you think you've got something really great and you're parading around and people are like, it's not right.
It's
not
forced.
Right.
And then the joke that you came up with while you were hanging out with friends is more organic and funnier.
Yes, effortless.
Yes.
Effortless. One thing I'm like really trying to commit to go to a softer living, especially for this season, which I'm in town now. I was gone for like 2 months pretty much. So now I'm in town. Cutting back on caffeine, that's something. So like to recap, like cutting back on caffeine, going to 1 cup a day.
Yeah, maybe switch to a chamomile.
Allowing yourself to rest. Yeah, like focusing, like doing the therapy, focusing on the micro shift. Like what's something that you want to do that you haven't been letting yourself do that you know that you could that can make everything better? Like I'm going to start getting like massages again.
Yeah.
I think like I'm going to go back to it. It is like, expensive. It's expensive, but it's like in the long run, it's my well-being.
Yeah, I get that way too. Sometimes I'm like, sometimes it's just nice to like actually put money into your appearance.
Yeah,
like let me go
do
get
something
a
for
haircut
yourself
or something.
Yeah, do something for yourself. And then also, doing the micro shift of like, what am I working towards? What healthy habit am I trying to build? And just taking a tiny micro step towards it. Drinking an extra glass of water in the day.
Yeah.
You did it.
Well, I feel like now with the pregnancy, it's also made, I have to accept a lot of things because you're like, it's just the way it is and I can't force it. Like I don't sleep at night, but I find that taking maybe 1 or 2 naps during the day gets me what I need. The only thing I feel like I should be doing at night if I can't sleep, maybe watch TV.
Yeah.
Instead of like,
wow. So
being like this, causing Joe stress, being like this.
I love to put it. Yeah. It's like, that's where we started, putting it on to the other person. If I can't sleep, you can't sleep. We're both awake with this baby.
But that's like, I remember that early, like somewhat early on in our relationship. Like I didn't realize how annoying it is to come in with negative energy. Like you come in, say that you're like, it took me an hour from Union Square to get to Astoria.
Yeah.
And you're throwing your bags down. And then it's not until your partner goes through the same thing and comes into the house with that energy. And you're like, I'm trying to watch Real Housewives and I'm in my moment right now.
I was having a great time.
And now I'm like, jolted because furniture is being pushed around, and like
I have to deal with you. I have to like emotionally support you,
regulate,
through, like,
and then you're like, oh, that's exactly what I was doing.
It's so hard to not do that, but you like can't. You have to. I was doing it. I'm like, I have to stop because
But
you want the other person to
feels so
stop
good.
and like do therapy on you, but
Yeah.
then you have to do it to them, and then it's like that's codependency.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh, someone bumped into me. I need you to celebrate me until I'm back on the right track.
I need
So
reassurance
annoying.
or
So annoying.
validation.
Yeah, it's not fair to do it to your partner.
No, well, it's called, I guess you just have to, that's why I feel like with soft learn or living, it's like
If you-
self-regulating your emotions a little bit better.
Yes. When you're taking care of yourself and you're prioritizing your own self-care and you're not only prioritizing work,
Yeah.
then like if somebody bumps into you, when you're like rested and you've like eaten a meal and somebody bumps into you, you're like, oh, blessings. you know, like,
Someone's having a rough day, but not me.
I hope they're. I wish you well. And then like you realize like, oh, there's so many problems that are just being created by me thinking that sleeping 5 hours is healthy for some reason.
Yeah, it's kind of, what is that saying? Or like probably a Dolly Parton song about like a branch that's rigid snaps,
Yeah.
where you want to be a bendy branch.
You want to be a bendy branch.
Yeah.
Oh, be bendy.
Be bendy.
Lady Journey. Please like and subscribe and
Yes.
follow and join our Patreon if you want exclusive peeps at Sarah's life as a mother now.
Yeah, I might show the back of the head of the baby.
Oh, never the front. Never the front. Well, you could show it one feature at a time. Like today you're getting an eye. If you put it together, then good for you.
I just get nervous sharing too much, but yes.
I know. Well, you don't want people to be disgusting, but our followers never would. If you've made it this far into the podcast,
If you've gone through our scone wall,
you are an angel.
Yes.
And we wish you well.
yes.